Powerhouse Women has grown from the tiny seed of an idea, one of those wouldn't it be cool if unicorn dreams, to a thriving community and a thriving business in just a little over 3 years, which is crazy to say, and it's incredible. But today I actually want to share with you some of the less glamorous and actually kind of boring parts behind the scenes. You know, what may look glamorous when someone looks at the social media version of this journey is actually a string of far less glamorous moments where I was willing to stay committed to the vision and stick it out even when I wanted to quit. And yes, there are definitely times that I wanted to quit. I actually think this is a reminder we probably all need from time to time. So if that is resonating with you, then I want you to really listen in today. And just remember that some of the best things come on the other side of sticking it out and really focusing on the long-term vision. Thanks for tuning in today. If you're listening to this on launch day, the day it goes live, I have such an exciting announcement for you because today the early bird tickets for Powerhouse Women 2020 are officially live. I am so excited for this year's event. So this is our annual conference, and it's a day designed to help women just like you get out of your own way and into action around your big ideas. So we structure this really intentionally. We know that a lot of you are looking to really create that community, or as not meaning to be very literal, I'm wearing, if you're watching the video version of this, I'm wearing a girl gang shirt. So you're looking to create your girl gang, those women who are going to support you and cheer you on and who are also chasing after big ideas and dreams. And this is the place to do it. So this year, we are honing in on the theme of being loud with your gifts and being bold, unapologetic about the impact that you want to make, because there are so many people in the world who need to hear what you have to say and who are waiting for you to step up into your bigger purpose. So you can read all about it and get the full details on our website. It's linked in the show notes, but it's just powerhousewomen.co. And the event this year is on September 12th. It's in Arizona. It's right in my backyard. So not actually in my backyard. That would be kind of weird, but my home state. And I would love to see you there. So get all the details. You're going to want to grab your ticket because early bird tickets are only going to last for about a month. And if you know you want to come, let's just make it official. So grab your ticket, get all the details online on our website, powerhousewomen.co. And I literally cannot wait for you all to see what we have in store. If you've been to an event in the past, you know we are always raising the bar. We're always doing something new and exciting that is going to surprise you and really inspire you to think bigger for your own life and your own business. So I can't wait to see you there. Today, I want to talk about something that's actually so timely, given that we're now starting to look at the 4th year of the Powerhouse Women event, because it's very easy to, if you're brand new and just seeing Powerhouse Women as it is today, it would be very easy for you to see the social media version or how, fast this has grown, how really big and exciting it's become, and not realize how humble the beginnings were, or how many times, it was really just me alone in my office, writing the book Powerhouse Woman. And there were so many times that all of this almost didn't happen because I wanted to quit. And at those moments when I was at the point of such discomfort that I wanted to give up, I just had to remind myself of a few things. And I'm going to talk about those in a minute and just really what got me through those moments. But I want to speak to those of you who, might be in that place right now. Maybe you have started to take the first few steps toward building your dream, writing that blog, starting that business, or just stepping out to make an impact in a certain way. And it feels like no one's listening. It feels like no one cares. I can so relate to that. That's why I'm laughing. It feels like, will this ever freaking happen? Why does it feel like everyone else is going so much faster, or it's happening for them so much faster than it is for me? I can so relate to that. And so I want to just remind all of us, myself included, that behind the scenes is so much more than we ever see. Behind the scenes of anyone's, seemingly overnight success is probably years where they were just willing to get up every day and be excited about their vision, even when no one else was. So there's times in our lives when, we know that we're meant to pivot, when we know we're meant to maybe, change course and do something new. But if you are still you are just committed to your vision and feel so deep down that, okay, if this doesn't happen, I don't know if anyone else will serve these people that I know I want to serve, then this reminder for you, I want you to flag this episode and come back to it as often as you need to remember that nothing good happens if you don't stick it out. And so I want to share a couple of points in my own, this whole journey of Powerhouse Women up until what it is today and what you see, where I really, really wanted to give up, or when it would have been much easier to stop than it would have been to keep going. But I'm so grateful that I was willing to stick it out. And some of the things that just really helped me in those seasons see it through and continue to put one foot in front of the other so that we could have this amazing community and this amazing, girl gang and the event and everything that we have now, because I can't imagine my life without it. And I'm sure some of you feel that same way about what Powerhouse Women has meant to you. So the first place that I really had to, I needed to remind myself of this principle of just sticking it out almost every day, sometimes hour by hour, was when I was first writing the book, Powerhouse Woman. And this was, if you've never heard the full story, you can go back on episode 1 and I talked a whole lot more about it. But this was the first time when I really stepped out to do something that I thought I had no business doing. If you've heard the story before, I talk about how, I was not a writer at the time. I had a health and fitness blog for 3 years. That was my background before, was health and fitness. And I published, on average, 1 new article per year. I literally had 3 articles on this blog and no one read them because I was so not willing to put myself out there. I was just so petrified of what other people would think, or, just even of getting any sort of criticism at all, that I was paralyzed. I just didn't even trust myself enough to put a 300-word article out there. So when I decided to write a whole book, it had me take on that fear of mine every single day for about a year. So like I mentioned, a typical blog article is usually 300 to 500 words, and a book of the length of the one that I wrote was 50,000. So just imagine how many days that adds up to of me showing up and doing the work, a lot of times crying my way through it, because here's the deal. It wasn't like I said yes to writing this book and then I woke up the next morning and said oh my gosh, I'm actually an amazing writer. I never knew. No, it was horrible at first. I was not good. The writing that I produced in the beginning was not good. It didn't end up in the book. I have draft upon draft upon draft of things that people never read because it was what I had to write through in order to get to the parts that actually were kind of good, and the parts that did end up being in the book and people now write me and say that they really resonate with. But I had to be willing to show up and stick it out even when I was terrible, because I just knew deep down that this was something I was supposed to be doing and it was going to lead to something more, even if I didn't know what that was. So, if you are working on something right now, especially something like a book or a project that really would be a lot easier to quit and it's going to require you to show up and take yourself on and stick it out day after day after day. I really, really want you to know that it doesn't feel comfortable and that you do have to sit down and get in that habit of writing or doing whatever your thing is on a daily basis, even on the days that you don't feel like it. That's the only way that something like a book is accomplished. And, I think back to when I first took on, the project of writing the book, I joined a webinar, like a virtual coaching program of other entrepreneurs who wanted to write books. And I think the program started with maybe like 12 of us. It dwindled to maybe 6. And this was 4 years ago. And to this day, I'm still the only person out of that group that finished and published a book. And I'm not actually saying that to say I'm anything special. I'm saying that because I, for my entire life up until that point, was actually one of those other 11 people. I would find the excuse. I would buy into my own reasons for why I had a perfectly logical excuse for not seeing something through. And the result was I just was kind of frustrated and restless, and nothing really changed in my life. So I wanted to give you a couple of tips that, like, if you're in a season where you just need to stick it out and keep working toward your vision, the biggest thing that I kept reminding myself of is, look, I already knew what it looks like to give up on something. I already know what that version of this story, of my life looks like if I give up now. What if? What could happen if this time I do something different and I just stick it out? And I kept asking myself that question. I asked myself that question on the days when I really had, like, my mind had come up with a perfectly logical reason for why I wanted to quit. And it usually sounded like a very, politically correct, very polished reason that my mind bought into, like, oh, this isn't the right time for me. I just don't have a lot of extra bandwidth right now. I would have like this perfectly curated reason why I was going to give up on that first, book. And every time deep down, something in me was like, again, you're going to do this again. And so I always had a choice to choose whether I was going to buy into that reason and that voice, or if I was going to listen to that little tiny whisper that was like, what if you just kept going? What could happen in a year or 2 or 5 years? And quite honestly, the answer to that question, now being on the other side, is so much bigger than my wildest dreams. I didn't know that it would include an event and a podcast and so many other things that we're now doing. But if I could go back and just sit with that version of myself, I would have so much compassion for how tough it was and really how brave it was for that girl, that version of me, to stick it out even when everything in me wanted to quit. And so having the, what do I want to call it? Like evidence of what can happen when I stick something out, it's made it so much easier to do things like staying consistent with this podcast. I've seen a lot of podcasts start and then stop. And for me now, I realize the power of setting a goal for myself, and especially if it's in line with the impact that I want to make. So like this podcast absolutely is, knowing that if I just keep showing up and if I just keep serving and keep focusing on the impact that I want to make through whatever it is that I'm doing, that any other excuse, it's just very easy to shut that excuse up. Because I know that the best things happen when I focus first and foremost on who I want to serve. And that's like secret number 2. And then I ask myself better questions like, what if? What if I keep going with this podcast since I'm loving it? And yes, it takes work. It takes a lot of intention to put content together. What if I just keep at it? What could happen? So I want you to ask yourself those same questions this week. And whatever it is that you're working on, I really want you to look at, do you have a habit of giving up or hitting pause on something that at one point was very, very exciting to you when you start to hit resistance? Do you start to buy into your own excuses for why maybe now isn't the time, or maybe you should just like dedicate less time to it? maybe a better question to ask yourself is, well, what could happen if you just stick this one out and you see it through? And if nothing else, even if nothing miraculous happens on the other side, you start to associate yourself as a person who keeps their word and keeps their promises to themselves. And that kind of person is unstoppable. So I would love to hear what you are getting from this conversation today. And if you are listening to this and you're like, oh my goodness, that was speaking right to me and exactly what I needed to hear, the best place to connect with me is on Instagram. You can either connect, actually, I would love if you would connect with both our Powerhouse Women Instagram, which I do a lot of that behind the scenes as well. It's just Powerhouse_women. And then my personal Instagram is Lindsey Schwartz. I actually linked it in the show notes, the correct spelling, so you can have that. But connect with me. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you are putting your word to, that you are going to see it through all the way, no matter what, and stick it out. And I want to know who you are out to impact in the process.